All right. I'm here all week. I'm
In
actually not leaving in
five,
the morning.
4, 3, 2, 1. What's going on, people? This is No Labels Podcast. I am your host, Willie G. We got Miss Audrey in the building.
Hey, y'all.
We got the queen in the building, the producer. She stepped out.
Yeah.
Been a minute. How long? A month?
Maybe a month. I have no sense of time in a real way anymore. I'm trying to stabilize. I went on sabbatical and completely disconnected, and it was wonderful.
Shout out to the
So
sabbatical.
I don't quite know how it's, I feel like it's been 3 weeks.
Shout out to the sabbatical. To the rest. to the naps.
Oh, yeah, about a month because it was before I went on sabbatical.
I'm to the place in my life where I enjoy naps.
Oh, listen.
I never like to sleep. But now I enjoy a good nap.
So, and my mother will vouch for this. I have never, even as a baby, my mom, she never had to convince me to take a nap. It was just a suggestion, like, oh, do you want to take short? Like, as a kid, I don't have no naps to make up for from my childhood.
I got plenty naps.
I have always been the one to take my naps.
I can't stand because I feel like I'm missing something. Cause when you
I don't care.
Especially when you get a good nap, when you wake up confused.
Oh, I had one of those. I woke up, I didn't even know if it was the same day it was, and I went to sleep. Oh, my clock said 10:28. I'm like, a.m. or p.m. Don't man, I ain't got nowhere to be. It felt great.
No, it's like when you go to sleep like 3-ish, 4-ish, and you wake up and it's like about to be night.
Well, when you go to sleep and the sun is up, and then it sets,
and it look like morning. It look like morning. You wake up. Did I sleep all night?
Listen,
bro, that's that good sleep. I'm starting to enjoy that.
I've always enjoyed it, and I only enjoy it more the more I work. As I continue to journey through this life, but I've never cared about what I was missing for the sake of a nap. Never.
Yeah, we totally opposites. Cause I swear, but yo, shout out to the sabbatical, shout out to Rick.
Yeah, shout out to you gotta build, and I'm learning it, and I've been really practicing it, and when you start to see the thing that you practice really start to work for you, where you build the rest into the work, I am seeing the return of me being deliberate about that. And it's like when you think about it, like I still have some pretty heavy hitter things on my plate, but it doesn't feel too much because I got a really good rest and reset. Some little things that were taking up space that I wasn't even aware of at the time. And I couldn't even tell you what some of the things that I was like kind of holding. But I was like, I want 2 weeks sabbatical. And I've never, because it's in between jobs, I can't really call it a vacation. And I've never just had a full on disconnect. Because vacation, you still got to go back. If something really goes wrong, you still going to hear about it. But like, no, I am done with this. I have passed the torch. When I start over here, I'll be the new kid on the block that don't know nothing. And in between, I can just live.
What is I always hear the word sabbatical. But what really is it just a vacation?
It's more than a vacation. It really is it's like a vacation on steroids. I can pull up a definition, but vacation on steroids, where it's a complete I need to not just have a few days off, but I really need to disconnect from a level of consistent work that I have been doing, and I need to fully detach. Because you can be working, like for example, like when I think it's important for like pastors to take sabbaticals. But if you were going every single Sunday, every Wednesday, and you're constantly on for the people, and it never, especially when you're in, like I have a career, like my work, retail, with certain work you do, it doesn't stop. It's not like where teachers get the summer off. No disrespect, because I absolutely, y'all take the summer, rest hard, teachers, rest hard. I'm counting down with y'all. No, but there are some professions, like your doctor's office will likely close and have holiday time. They'll just shut down and won't reopen. So there are a lot of things that stop for that, but there are a lot of businesses that just do not stop.
Oh, yeah.
And you can take a vacation, but it's still a level, you're still connected to that thing. But when you can go like full on disconnect, if anything goes wrong, even the worst, there's still something else in place, function as though I'm not here. And you're taking a moment to really replenish yourself. Like a vacation is like an extended break. A sabbatical, the way I see it is, and the way I've experienced it is a full-on disconnect to replenish and kind of just center and stop.
That's needed.
And just press a real pause as it relates to a level of output from work in a particular area.
That's needed. Because burnout is real, people. Burnout is a real thing.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Well, since we like, you know what I'm saying, like, since we on that topic right there, disconnect. I got some icebreakers. We
Let's
back.
break some ice. It's been a minute.
I got some icebreakers. I'm trying to get into the flow. A lot been going on, truthfully, but it's a
Yeah.
lot going on in the world, not just my own life. I'm not. I just want to since we just talk about disconnection, let's talk about TikTok for a second. Montana.
I ain't even been on TikTok in a minute.
Montana is the first state to pass. They trying to pass a bill to be the first state to ban TikTok. And
Oh, I didn't. So I was hearing a few weeks ago the national conversation, but I didn't realize it was starting to get that close.
Montana is the first state to put it in, so it's not passed yet. But if nothing hinders it, it'll pass sometime next year, early next year. And it's basically like and like if someone gets caught on TikTok in Montana, like it's a $10,000 fee, but it don't go to the person. It don't go to the person. It go to like the App Store or it goes back to TikTok. That's who gets the fine, not the person.
That's interesting.
And it's like I just want to get your thoughts on that. And it's like
I feel like I got more questions and thoughts.
do you think? Cause we don't know. I mean, it could be because the whole basis of the TikTok is like it's a national security issue. But we had the same conversation about Facebook and all these other things. So do you think it really is? Just our opinion. We don't know. It's a podcast. Like, before we say anything, like anything.
We are not
say,
experts. We are opinionists.
This is entertainment. You got to say this now.
No, I know this is for entertainment purposes only.
Entertainment purposes only. But
these are strictly our opinions.
But do you think it really is a thing? Because do you really think it's a thing of national security, or do you think it's the social media giant, the tech giants of America, eliminating their competition? Because the CEO came and he had he talked before Congress and all that. And he was like, the government of China does not own that. Does not have no part of what we do. This is a private owned company. Now we don't know if it could be any way, but do you think it's really is national security, or do you think it's
So from my extremely limited opinionated point of view, specifically I've heard some of our nation's national security advisors express some of their concerns for national security, but again from my perimeter perspective, I don't necessarily know that I believe that it poses this greater threat to national security in a way that is bigger than the internet. The internet is worldwide.
Yeah.
Like every little site got a place where you can store your wallet, card information, like your identity. Like I think that's just a risk of the internet. I think the bigger conversation that I have been hearing that I could understand how you can make an argument for specifically with TikTok is if whoever is privately controlling it and they're controlling what certain demographics of people and what markets of people see, and the way that you're able to, it's a huge influencer tool. Now, when you say that, and we say things like, oh, I'm an influencer, and that we use that word, well, the deeper question is, what are you influencing? And when you get something on a wide, grand, global scale, and you've got our nation is kind of on fire right now with certain things, and we have to consider global politics, and when you consider this age of misinformation that we're living in, like it goes in. You can if you want pull AI into the conversation of how much is real, how much is being force fed to us for the intent to influence our spending habits, our election habits, our ideologies towards each other. I think the greater, in my opinion, I do think it is a national, global threat, but not so much TikTok more than all of these others.
Yeah.
But I do think it's the one that's getting credited because of, like, for example, I heard an argument where somebody was laying out how the information or the type of entertainment things we consume when we watch TikTok as Americans is very different than what other nations allow their children and their citizens to partake of because of the effects it has on our psyche, the effects it can have on our mental health, on our spending behaviors, travel behaviors, all kind of things like that. So I think it is I do think it like any other media could be a real threat, but more specifically with the ability to influence.
That's true.
From But as far as like, oh, this particular part of the internet is national security issue, I'm like, Facebook, like, if I say a store name, I'm gonna see an ad on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? So,
I think TikTok, it could be a national security, but and they could be stealing data. Because the data goes to them, so that's a real thing. But at the same time, I think it's more like you said. I think it's more of a threat, like influentially, like on the way we think. Like you say, the type of content that is fed to Americans.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Compared to the type of content that is fed to maybe the Chinese or whatever. So it's like he who controls the mind controls the people.
Right. And then when you think about it from, I would say a long-term perspective, but also long-term is getting shorter because of how fast technology moves. But when you consider
and AI just
certain educational things that may come through a certain demographic and may not go to another. When you consider the long game of that, does that put another group of people at an advantage when it comes down to compete in marketplace and in professional life because of certain things that may be restricted for children in other countries that are like, no, let Americans see this, so I do, from a national security, like, again, I'm sure that there are people who have a lot more expertise on that could really make a strong case like this is a real problem. And I've heard a lot of those conversations from those people in different interviews.
It's a lot. Even with the and then we'll go, like, even it's a lot going on in the world, even with who is that, China, South Africa, all these different countries coming together to try to make a new form of currency, which won't make America, American dollar the top. So, like, it's all these things.
That's a lot.
And right now, America look like a team that's just not willing to play team ball. You feel what I'm saying? Like, if it's any time for America to come together as Americans.
If we could just grab onto that word united. If we gonna call ourselves the United States of America, if we could just lean into the united part on so many things, a lot of this stuff would not be as hot as it is.
Well, on to more, like, but yeah, it's still bad, but Ja Morant.
A lot going on.
I know you're not a basketball fan, but have you heard about Ja Morant? I know you. But
about the whole gun, like he just a little too reckless with the way he carried guns. The second time.
Second offense.
Yeah.
You heard?
I heard about it.
That's one of the biggest topics right now. Ja Morant. Second time, getting caught.
How old is he? 23.
23. 2 months later, he already lost $40 million because of that, because he didn't get picked for the All NBA team, and people are annihilating him on the internet, which
I've seen a little bit of it, not a whole lot, but I did see.
It's going crazy. Everywhere. It's everywhere. Everybody, and it's like, and somebody was talking today. It's like not even coming from. It's all valid. At the same, like, he needs to learn his lesson this time, but at the same time, it's like, all right, we getting. It's
reckless.
It's getting crazy because, like, he is 23. Like, Lil Wayne even chimed in. He was like, he's 23 with 200 mil, and he's from a town with like maybe 3,000 people. So it's like you really can't expect him to be responsible. But what he's doing right now is like you gotta be. It's reckless.
Yeah, there's a difference between irresponsible and reckless. I think. Well, it's a fine line, but also once you start talking about a repeat behavior that you've already been reprimanded for. And when you talk about the number of dollars that are at stake, okay, maybe you were personally fine, but you also, people only know you because of this larger entity, which is the National Basketball Association, also known as the NBA. If we find you this much and you've done it again, the person, this is like just from a leadership perspective, whatever entity you represent, if they continue to allow it, now they're taking a hit to their reputation.
Yeah, it's business.
It's business.
It's definitely dumb. And the thing about it is, like, a lot of people ripping apart his friends, which I can see, like, personally, like, it should be a no live rule around Ja Morant. Like, if you in his circle, you shouldn't even be.
Yes.
The live button should not exist. You know what I'm saying? But I will give the friend credit. The one who caught live, like when Ja Morant pulled the gun out, he actually did, hit it, put the camera toward his shirt, but it was too late. The internet already caught it. I will give him credit. Like, Ja, like, he wasn't expecting Ja to. You could tell because soon as Ja did it, he kind of pulled it back. He probably looked at him like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
But it's like,
and then it's a certain, like, And I hate to really to harp on his age, but as somebody who's had to lead this younger generation of people, sometimes you have to have a moment where like y'all need to understand that consequences are real.
Consequences.
You can do whatever you want, but it does not absolve you of the consequence of what you've chosen to do.
It exists. I mean, and he has as a man, like he's a grown man. Yeah, I promise you, like at 23, like
And my thing is, there is grace, but the older you get and the more high profile you are, it shortens. And it's like you go out, like, okay, if you leveled up this quick, you're going to have to learn quick too.
and it's a lot of it's a lot of people like Shannon. Like Shannon just ripping him. Uncle
Oh,
Shannon.
we know we love. I'm
saying?
Savannah State. We love
Like,
Uncle
like
Shay.
but he really spent game. I mean,
What,
like,
people give? Why people? Well, I guess I can see why they give Shannon. I rock with. I love Uncle Shay,
I rock
but
with
I'm
Shannon.
Savannah State. But
I rock with Shannon. And Shannon, I mean, I agree with what Shannon's saying. Because the whole thing started, like, Shannon said it first. He was like, listen, you not like that. Like, and at the same time, nobody knows this man. So he really could be out here like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to speak on this person that we don't know. But at the same, like, in order to be where you at, it takes a certain level of focus.
Yes.
Certain level of dedication, certain level of time.
Yes.
So you can't be in the streets and be where you at. That's why that's why a lot of people got the confidence to say you're not really like that, homie. You feel what I'm saying? So we like the people that's really out there trying to get like they would kill to be in your shoes and what what a lot of people trying to help this boy. Listen, I would rather not have it than to get it and to lose
right.
it. And then 5 years later have to work a regular job with memories of that.
Yeah.
That's worse than never getting it at all, than having it.
So let me ask this question just from a bigger picture, just like a bigger conversation around that. Do you think that, well, how do I want to ask it? How often do you see people who say they aspire to these really big dreams, like, oh, I'm going to make it to the league? Like, you can't one out of how many kids you going to say that's their dream to make it to the league? But not just with professional sports, but any big dream. But how many people like talk that big talk, whatever, but you don't see anywhere they're working on their character. Like it's gonna require some other changes. It ain't just like, oh, you get this and something, and nothing about you's gonna have to change to live on this level that you say you want to live on.
Yeah. No, everything has to change. I mean,
I'm not saying that you don't be who you are, but like there are disciplines at this level that you have to adhere to in order to stay at this level.
It's a price tag.
And so I don't think people prepare the inner workings and the decision making of, and like you want to find the balance of not being kind of held hostage in your own life, but there is a level of, are you prepared for this big dream that you say you're going after on all the things? And one of the things that like my mother always encourages me in, like, whatever the dream is, go for it, get the skill. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing you need to prepare is you. What work are you doing on yourself? Who are you becoming? Because it's not about getting to this place as though it's like you having to create this place that doesn't. It exists and it's waiting for you, but it's waiting for a version of you that's prepared for it. Yeah. So how much work are you doing on yourself? Like, and it's certain things you can work on about yourself, that certain things you don't even have to like pray or dream about. They just automatically come with the behaviors and disciplines,
I think a lot of people they're being misled. I would say lied to, because internet will have you thinking that it's easy. And it's like they don't got like my son. Like, even though I say it in a way because he's 10, so I say it in a way that a 10-year-old can swallow it. But at the same time, I don't like he got a lot of big dreams. And even now, like my son is an artist, and he's like he work on digital design, but he never I'm like, listen, my son practices art work. Like, my son draws art like a basketball player would go to a gym, and he's 10. And I'm like, and he's ready, like because I can't draw. I cannot help him in that area. But what I know is he started from a stick figure to an actually really good artist, all by work ethic. And it's like, because from the beginning, even now, I tell him, like, listen, you haven't met your competition yet. Yeah. Your competition is somewhere, like, you haven't met your competition, and they're practicing now. So, like, he loves to do it, but I don't give him the illusion that just because you want to do it, you can do it. You know what I'm saying? There is a price to pay. But I say it in a way where a kid can swallow it. You still got to feed the imagination.
Right.
But, I mean, social media, like, the hustle now is knowledge. Like how you can go on YouTube, right? How many people are selling courses on how to do this and this? The hustle now, if it's easy knowledge. Get a course together. You can get a course together right now on whatever. You can get a course together right now on how to be a better author, and you can make money. You can flip that course.
Can't, but I take issue with some of them courses.
It's a hustle.
It absolutely is.
It's a hustle.
And here's one of my biggest things with especially when you get into creative things, but really anything. A lot of what these courses are selling is like making hard things easy.
Yeah, they being misled.
And even if you find an easy way to do the hard thing, you are not going to grow as a person. I would ask, do you even really love your craft enough to be curious about it? Or do you want somebody to just tell you how to do it? Is it about flipping a quick buck? Or is it about, I'm always going to go back to love of craft. And so a lot of what people are like peddling is, we're going to take the work out of it for you, but the work is where you get good.
That's facts. No, that's facts.
They like you want to skip steps, but you still want to have the best product. You still want to be the most knowledgeable when you're getting watered down knowledge from somebody else that's just trying to make money off the fact that they packaged something that was Googleable.
Googleable. No, that's the hustle.
But I guess for me as a creative, I'm such a curious creative. I like to dissect things and learn how they work. I like to know just how everything, like even if once I get to a place where I can hire people out to do certain things, I still want to know that if it comes down to it, I can strip this down and build this from scratch myself. And the things that you learn in doing, and not, I'm going to say doing things the hard way, because you don't necessarily want to intentionally find the hardest way, but the things that you learn in just like, this is what I have, this is the knowledge I have, how do I use that to get to the vision I see in my mind? The things you learn by just figuring it out. It's like a kid scientifically going through the world, touching everything, tasting everything, smelling everything, crawling. And for me, there's such a joy in that part. But you have to love the craft, because nobody's paying you for that part yet. They will eventually once you put out a quality product, but then you'll see people, you'll put out a finished product and somebody might be like, hey, quick, let me just ask you how you did this real quick. I'm like, I can teach you how to point and click a few things, but I cannot give you my curiosity. I can't give you my passion. I was just talking to a friend of mine last night. Like, we've been in the writing magazine game for over 10 years. Yeah. And I can give you a cheat sheet. I can give you a quick tips and tricks, but I can't make you love it enough to be curious about the things you didn't know to ask for. And you just, you know what I'm saying?
But I mean, that come with, that's why jealousy and that's why jealousy makes no sense. Because at the end of the day, everybody, like Kobe Bryant, got rest in peace.
We love Kobe.
No matter how you draw, everybody's special, but everybody's not meant to be a Kobe type player.
Right.
So it makes no sense. Like, everybody wants to, like, everybody who ever touched the ball wants to be a Kobe type. They want the recognition. They want the highlights. They want they want the accolades. Everybody wants that, but no, they don't.
Do they really?
They don't. They don't really. That's why hating makes no sense, because you can, like, you want what he received.
I feel like they want certain parts that they see publicly, but that part that you see, that iceberg analogy is real. That's why I love underground artists, underground work. I love behind the scenes work, because that is where the magic really, really happens. It's usually very unpretty, unsexy work. And if you can find within yourself where you love that, and then find a team of people that love that behind the scenes, it makes the outward presentation sweeter. But you're almost sad that it's over, like I was when I finished my book, where I felt like sad that it was over, because people rejoicing in the finish, and I was so glad about the finished product. It doesn't take anything away from that, but I loved creating it so much. When that part was over, I was just like, oh, let me go find something else to create, because I want to get back into the learning, hence the magazine.
No, I'm the same way.
On that third issue.
Like, when you finish it, it's like, okay, shout out to the third issue. Royal Ink magazine.
Coming out Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
Memorial Day weekend.
So that's soon. Yeah,
it is soon. So say some prayers for me, because I got a lot of things to do between now and Memorial Day weekend. But Memorial Day weekend, the education issue, Royal Ink magazine.
So that's basically like
coming to a scroll cycle near you.
Royal Ink magazine, not episode. Issue 3.
Issue
You know what I'm
number
saying?
3.
Season number 3. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
That's what's up, man. I got some applause on here. Hold on.
Thank
I got
you,
some
thank
applause.
you.
Yep, yeah. They ain't gonna let it.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
But no, it feels good to see that vision come to life. And it's really just those everyday people that I know that are doing just dope things that deserve to be celebrated, deserve to have a light shine on them.
No, that's real.
You know.
Shout out to the underground hustlers.
Yeah, the underground, but even not even so much underground. They just may have a small circle of influence, but it doesn't mean that they're less influential. It just means that they have a smaller influential assignment.
We would be considered underground, honestly.
Yeah, and I love it. It's fun down here, you know.
Okay, I'm gonna let you go. I can talk all day about that.
Go ahead.
Uh,
But Royal Ink's coming soon, more than we can. Issue 3.
Hakuna Matata. This is the name of what
Hakuna Matata.
it means. No worries
Wonderful phrase.
for the rest of your days. And if you don't know what we're talking about, then you are too young to be looking at this podcast. This is not.
Well, listen, we don't have the original. And did they sing it in the live action version?
Mm-hmm.
It means no worries for the rest of your days.
Listen. Yes, I'm about to get
Get it with
I'm about to go.
I had some harmony for you if you went there. Don't worry about it.
Hakuna
Hakuna
Matata.
Matata.
It means no worries. Okay.
According to Timon and Pumbaa.
According
I
to
never
Timon and
fact checked it. I just believed it.
I really don't know what it means, but they said it means no worries. So that's what we talk about today. Coming from a place of not no worries, because I like to factor in humanity. Okay, so a lot of stuff been going on personally for me, but and it was a lot of very very hard stuff. These last couple of weeks have been very emotionally hard, and I was in a place where everything around me was chaos, but inside of me was surprisingly not surprisingly, but I say surprisingly because it was quiet. And it was surprising. I'm gonna be real, because I know God is real, but due to the circumstances, like if I would have freaked out, you would have understood. But the fact of the matter, I was literally surrounded by chaos, and I can feel the pressure of the situation on my body. You know what I'm saying? The effects of stress. You know what I'm saying? Like breaking out, all this.
Yeah.
I felt the pressure of life, but at the same time, I was at peace. And I'm only saying Hakuna Matata, no worries, because I'm saying because I had real worries, I had real stress, but I also had real peace, a peace that goes beyond
what we can understand. Yeah,
that's the only way to explain that. It didn't make sense, but I was going there because I was like, how you?
And that's like what you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off because you was rolling.
No, you good.
But the peace has to be real, because the worry will be.
Yeah.
You know. Amen.
And I just wanted to say that because, like people would ask you, like, okay, how you know God real? And that's a good question. If I don't really have physical proof at the moment, so it's like, so when I hear people saying that, I say, okay, well, this is my response. Okay, you haven't been carried by God yet. It's okay.
Yeah.
Keep living. You haven't, and
you haven't had to hide in God.
Yeah, this is what this piece, what I'm talking about, because
carried by God. Yes.
It's chaos all around me. And it's understandable chaos, but the inside of me is quiet, and I'm still working. I'm still taking care of my children. I'm still getting things done. I'm actually progressing, but in a place where I'm numb, and none of this makes sense. And then when you go to sleep at night and you wake up and you realize that, you know what I'm saying? This ain't me. So it's like when I say no worries, I guess no worries would be a place of total surrender, kind of a free fall, because some situations you like it requires you to make a choice. You're at a pitchfork. Okay, do I believe or do I not? Okay, God, I believe, and that's it. That don't take away the worry. It don't take away the stress to be like.
Right.
But I don't wish the moments on nobody, but all of us face them.
Yeah.
So it's like, I guess they're good. They're good because they're gonna okay, That's what I mean by
I've always had, and because one is how I gain some specific respect for myself, and I always respect it when I see it in other people. I have such a respect and admiration for people who keep going and don't give up when nobody would have blamed them for giving up based on the circumstances. It's just like, you know what, for real, nobody would blame you if you threw in the towel. Like, nobody, there's no shame in it. And you find something in you to keep going anyway because you see a greater. I think it's remarkable. And I know that I've experienced that for myself to where I'm like,
why do we do that?
huh?
Like, okay.
What do you mean? What do we do? Which part?
Like, we go to, like, why do, like, okay, why do we keep going when there's every reason to, like, even, like, now is the time to give up, especially when something's been hard. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's just say you've been in a magazine. I'm not saying it's been hard, but let's just, someone who has not reached where they thought they would have been by now, and now they get an opportunity to give up. You know what I'm saying? Like, to keep going, that's kind of what I was like. That's kind of what I was saying earlier.
I actually have I won't share it because this is deeply personal, but there was a certain situation I was kind of thinking about that on, and the only thing I could really come up with is, even in small amounts, hope is extremely powerful.
Oh yeah.
And so, if you've ever had, like, because usually, like, that hope deferred makes the heart sick. That thing that can, like, be a blow to your hope is that you have this vision of your life, of yourself, or whatever, and everything around you looks less and less like the vision, less and less, but the hope in you, no matter how small it is, still sees that vision so clearly.
Yeah.
It may get stifled under a lot of noise. It may get smaller in your ear, but hope is extremely resilient. And if you have a hope that's still alive, even if this is a little bit of a flicker, then that hope has to be tied to some future vision that you believe is still possible. And that's where faith comes in. Like, faith is the substance of what we hope for. And so, because there's a hope tied to this future thing that I haven't seen, I'll continue to take a step, even if it's just getting up every day. And that step is called faith.
That's true.
And so it really comes down to the power and resilience of hope.
That's real. And it's like, hope is a powerful thing. You know what that reminds me of? Hunger Games.
Listen, the only thing stronger than fear. Yes, I love Hunger Games.
It reminds me of
Katniss Everdeen.
I would say, and hope is a real thing. But I'm going to hit you with another one. And
Okay.
This one's real. Okay, how do you find hope when you lose expectation? When you've been hit so many times that you don't even expect.
Really?
You get to a place where you just going through you feel like you're going through the motion. You don't even expect.
Really trying to read my diary.
For good. You know what I'm saying? And it's like one of the things I set out to do, and everything I do is to give hope to the hopeless. Mm-hmm. One thing, because I know what it feels like to be hopeless.
Yes.
And it's like, we say like faith. Yeah, faith. That is faith. But how do you have faith when you lose expectations? Some would say it's impossible. I think all of us get to a place where we were so beat inside.
And I think it's, for me, it's still fear-based. You're scared to hope. You're scared, and there's a part of you that wants to expect, because that's what keeps you going. There's a few things, like, just like scriptures I may pull in, just like, well, what was my expectation tied to? Was it tied to something that I fabricated in my mind, or was it tied to something that God said? So for me, in order for me not to get overwhelmed with discouragement, I have to go back and be like, you know what? I might have had a great idea, and I did put some hope towards that idea and some expectation, and maybe that was disappointed, and maybe that expectation was cut off. Yeah. But there's still a promise in the Word of God that says my expectation won't be cut off. So then I challenge myself to ask, well, is my expectation tied to something that God promised me in His Word? Because He's only obligated to what He said, not what I dreamt up.
That's real.
And so then it's like, well, how aligned are my expectations with God's expectations for me? Because there's some things that I've been through that I never would have chosen for myself. But on the back end, I can see the purpose of God in it and at work in it. But then it still comes back to, like, Lord, did I expect this out of my own whatever, or did I expect this from something that was tied to something that you promised me? Because if it's tied to you, then I'm gonna hold on to that one. But maybe I had a false expectation that I built up in my mind, and you just get a little more wisdom, and you look back in that thing that you expected to happen. You're like, thank God that didn't happen. And so then it becomes like, what am I expecting? Is there any word or confirmation from God in any way that supports this expectation?
That's real.
So that I can continue to move forward with some level of validity, at least from my faith, but also that sometimes that devastation, if it's like you kind of forge God's name on something that he never really said.
Yeah.
And that hope can be kind of devastated. But then too, there's certain things that you just don't know what you don't know because you don't know your future.
You don't know.
And you just got to consult with God, and like you go with your desires and you go with what you think you might want. And that's why I've even kind of learned, I'm like, Lord, I think I want this. Because there's some things that years ago, you couldn't told me I didn't fully want something. I was like, Lord, I want this. And then you go back and like, thank God.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and so if I feel myself with a strong pull desire, I'm quicker now to go to God and be like, where is this coming from? Is this coming from you? Because if this is not coming from you, certain desires, certain things I have would be too devastating if I let this thing build up without any cosign and backing from God about it. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, that's real. No.
So it really is like, God, what did you say? Because I did not pick my purpose. I didn't pick my life for myself. I'm going to partner with God with his plan for me. And that can help keep my feelings in check because the feelings are real. I'm still human.
That's facts.
You know, the expectations are real. That's why the Bible says things like a heart deferred makes the heart, hope deferred makes the heart sick. Somebody had to live through that to know to write that.
And that's real. And I only say that, I got it. I say that because it's real. First of all,
I just poured a whole.
Oh yeah. You good? You tired?
Listen, I'm tired. Shout out to Keandra, who is producer / podcast mom / bartender. And I just got a little excited. I thought it was less in the cup than it was, and so I thought to go bottoms up, and it
a little bit extra.
It went a little.
Okay, it's all good.
My shirt is black, so.
My president is black.
Listen, I'm black. My shirt is black.
But no,
podcast black. We all black everything.
I say that because I mean it's a real question, and man, I had the whole God formula on one of our podcasts when I was like, when some people think,
yeah.
Time
like
plus,
this plus this
plus prayer plus this
equal blessings.
And what God is showing me is like there's only one formula, and the formula is trust. When you don't have hope, all you have is trust. And I don't trust. And truthfully, like.
And I will tell you another like legit formula, biblical spiritual form that I've been living in. Godliness with contentment is great gain.
That's facts.
It's just like if I can be no matter where I am, it doesn't mean I don't want to be somewhere else. It doesn't mean I don't want more. But if I can find a contentment with God in wherever I'm standing at any present moment, then it is inevitable that gain comes after that. Like, okay, I may still want more. Or I may have everything I need, but I am content with God. Godliness with contentment is great gain. And so don't be surprised by the gains.
And that's facts. And it's like, man, it's crazy because I'm like, I was talking to Keandra. I'm like, I'm looking across what's going on in the world. And it's like, in the Bible when they say God, when they say, behold, I do a new thing.
Yes.
Don't you behold it? And I'm looking at all these influences that, like, honestly, that people would count out of the God conversation. Like, they have nothing to do with it. But I'm also listening to these people talk. And when they talk, they talk. When they talk about God, they talk about him like I know him. So I'm like, hold up. And it's like, it seems like something is going on. Now, I'm not being, this is my perspective. Like I said, this is my thinking. But it seems like something going on right up under our noses. Because it's like we looking at this, we talk about revival and we had all these great revivals. And I think we looking for this great move of God to come the same way. I
agree with you. I think it's happening. I've seen, we could talk offline about some of this stuff, but I think I'm seeing a similar thing.
Yeah, and it's like.
I don't want to go too much into it, but yes, I am seeing God in unlikely places. I'll put it like that.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And if you have a real relationship with God, it's kind of easy and it's almost surprising when you see it. But if you only have a surface relationship with God, you could easily miss it.
Yeah, and it's like I was reading in the book, man. Tradition is a good thing. Like sometimes we have family tradition, but in the same way, tradition is can be the same thing as a curse, and it can be the same thing that
Well,
stops
you know,
you.
the word literally says straight out, like, the only thing that can make the word of God ineffective in your life, but the only thing that makes the word traditions make the word of God of null effect,
Yeah,
is what it's saying. But basically, God's word is it, but it will hit a wall at working in your life. If your wall is tradition,
yeah,
then the truth of God's word, like, you keeping it out, you keeping out the positive effects of the principles that God laid out in his word, of just the encouragement of his
yeah.
word, the life, the quickening, all of that stuff, like two-edged sword, that is his word. The thing that you can put up to block that is your tradition.
That's facts. What you know, like yo, it's like cause sometimes along this journey you're gonna feel like you tweaking a little bit. You're gonna kind of feel like you lose your mind. And I was reading in this book. It was like sometimes you feel like you lose your mind, but that's a good place. They got that. That's a good thing because God is saying I don't want you to trust in your mind. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Your
right.
mind is limited, and like traditions, like the way we've known God, and a lot of people ministers. I love ministers. I have my outlets. I respect people who carry the gospel, but ministers have to preach from their own life. You know what I'm saying? Not saying God can't give them revelation outside of their life,
No, but as somebody who
but
had to do it, yes, it's a very real thing.
yeah, a minister speaks from their life. That's why I respect them because they have to speak from their pain and their life experiences. And a lot of times we can make doctrine around a personal, a unique relationship thing that they did. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody's not required to not
Yeah.
cut the hair like Samson.
Right,
That's
exactly.
that's not God not telling everybody to do that, but he
Exactly.
clearly told Samson to do that. You feel what I'm
It's
saying?
such a, and that's that part of, like, personal relationship. And I find myself in those conversations fairly regularly, but it's just like we can still be of the same faith and different assignments.
Yeah.
And so we have to be careful that, like, oh, we know we both still believe God, but God told you not to cut your hair. He ain't tell me not to cut. That's your assignment. You see what I'm saying? That's like taking a job and, like, that's the uniform you have to wear because of the job. It's like, no, we still come from the same family, have the same belief system, same belief, different assignment.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it can take a maturity to see that, but that's where I think some of the in family fighting happens in the church.
Yeah.
When people, like, well, we say we believe the same thing, but we start to fight over this person has a different assignment. So you want to judge what this person wears, or you want to judge how this person speaks or delivers, or you want to just judge where they go. You just want to judge so much. But like you say, you have the same belief, but you get conflict when you start talking about the different assignments. And so how do people get the maturity and the complexity and the nuance to know, yes, we're of the same belief, but of different assignments, and how do we not hold the different assignments against one another?
And that's you can break that all apart.
What,
You know what I'm saying?
because I'm always talking about how I'm assigned to the smoking section, and I get it, and I am in that. Like, everybody can't can't go in some of the places that I'm not just can, but assigned to go. Everybody could not regularly deal with some of the people that not just that I can deal with, but are assigned to love and care. You see what I'm saying? Or be responsible for. Or if you want to just from the perspective of my job, if I'm hiring young people, I can't just get too heavy in these conversations about a whole generation of people is lazy and dumb. Like, no. If they come to me to, like, well, I'm going to give you as much as I can to help you overcome this thing. You see what I'm saying? So you can't speak in those broad terms when our assignments start to get really specific. And I think that's where, again, a lot of where some of the infighting comes from within the faith.
And that's real. Like I said, man, to get caught up in what has been, it's kind of impossible because something's coming that we've never seen. You know what I'm saying? Not saying you won't be able to find but it's like something always has come that we've never seen.
Mm-hmm.
Moses was something they never seen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Jesus was something they never seen, and it's like we can't like I think we get. I say it all the time. I think we get.
And those specific to people like Moses, Jesus, and they came on assignment directly from God, called by God, but in a lot of ways were in direct opposition to church people.
Yeah, I
like
mean,
head to head.
with tradition,
With tradition.
and it's like
With tradition.
you can't deny that Jesus was definitely a rebel. You know what I'm saying? I'm not preaching
Radical. It's very radical.
very radical. You know what I'm saying? If we gonna preach the real Jesus, but it's like
I feel like people will sometimes be trying to do with Jesus what they do to Martin Luther King. Or they make him really soft and passive. But if he was as soft and passive as some people would only want to extract that part,
yeah.
then why was he assassinated?
And
You know what I'm saying?
I-
Like if he was so I sometimes it's just interesting. I just look at different perspectives. But that same thing is like, well, yes, Jesus was the way, truth, and life, but don't think Jesus did not assert his full authority when needed to and cast out devils and flip tables and reprimand and rebuke and all of those things. What? Oh yes, fine, I'm good. Thank you. Listen, our producer be on it.
I think we can get conceited sometimes because we have the Bible. And it's
Ooh.
like I think the Bible can make us conceited because we read Abraham and think and no I say that to say because if you're not careful you can think you understand God.
Yes.
And that would never be the case. You know what I'm saying? That would never be the case to say, okay, if God doesn't like this is not God.
Right.
Like, you see what I'm saying?
Those people that kind of study the Bible with the goal of trying to figure God out, like if you could figure him out, then he would not be worthy of being God. You would be God.
Yeah, and it's like that's where I get because I mean I done caught myself doing that's why I say it. I'm like, hold up, and it's like God clearly say, "Behold, I do a new thing." You feel what I'm saying? Like, don't you see it? And so a new thing is just that. It's not. It's a new thing. It's something we've never seen. So I mean, we can go all day.
Yeah, I think I kind of see that new thing that you're referring
Yeah,
to. I've been watching it for a while. It's encouraging. I love it.
And it's like man, it's like okay, if we're called to be the kingdom and expand, like God gave me this analogy. He's like, okay, how does God come into an industry and then take over?
Yeah.
And he was like, by already being there.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Like that's why you're gonna find God in unlikely places because all these places that we want this light to be, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna come from a person 9 times out of 10 that was already in there. Moses.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He came from Egypt. You know what I'm saying?
Like Moses was so strategically extracted specifically so he wouldn't fall into the traditions of the ones who believe of God's people. He had to be strategically extracted out, raised in this whole secular culture, so he was undercover. His whole assignment was undercover.
Yeah, it really,
You know what I'm saying?
It really was.
But and even too now, I'll take this little preach moment. It's a Sunday, but certain things just because I see through my gift and one of my dominant gifts is language and communication, and I hear different people preach about like Moses and how like God really used Moses, but he specifically had a speech impediment, or he was like, I'm slow of speech and things like that. And I'm not saying that he didn't have those things, but if you look strictly at the context and you look at kind of the whole story and how God moved through that story, it's all of the people like, well, Moses had a speech impediment or he stuttered or whatever, however people want to frame it when they preach it. But if you read through the text, Moses is having all of this dialogue with Pharaoh. He grew up in Egypt. He grew up with Pharaoh, kind of like as brothers kind of thing. So it wasn't so much that he didn't know what to speak. I really think it was more of, I don't know how to talk this church, the way these church people talk.
Yeah.
I grew up in Egypt, so I talk like the hood.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so they not going to receive me because I don't know how to speak this church speak.
Yeah.
And so he was like, bet, I left your brother Aaron and your sister Miriam. They will help you speak to those people because there's a language barrier because of how church people talk.
Yeah.
And how the rest of the world just talks in regular life.
Yeah.
And so he knew all about the systems and the language and how to, he talked directly to Pharaoh. So when he got face to face with Pharaoh, it wasn't Aaron talking on behalf of Moses. It was Moses directly to Pharaoh, to the highest ranking person in that land. So if you want to pull this speech impediment card, I'm not here to say it, but I'm saying consider another perspective. And so when he's saying, God, I can't go in front of these people and talk, it's not so much he can't go to Egypt and talk. I was born, I'm good in the hood.
Yeah.
But if you want me to go in church and say this, they are not going to receive me because every time I say how you doing, they're like, blessed and highly favored of the Lord. And I'm just like, I just want to know if you're having a good day. You know what I'm saying? But you get what I'm saying? And so I really think that sometimes we miss that communication. Like we're everywhere we're assigned to, and I think there's a huge communication and language barrier between people really receiving the gospel because we've cloaked it in this traditional language.
Yeah, I mean that's true, and we cloak.
That's my soapbox and my word for
I
the
mean,
day.
and that's
Exodus.